On Two Wheels this week, I meet a relative newcomer to the world of stunt riding. He's also a member of the Street Fighter Owners Club, Richy Williams. Wayne travels to Santa Pod to see Jason Rennie attempt a world record motorcycle jump, 260 feet. And we look back to Jeff's road test of Kawasaki's ZX12R. Now here's another member of the Street Fighter Owners Club, but someone who rides bikes professionally, shall we say. My friend here, Richy Williams, stunt rider, yes?
Yeah, that's right.
And you've been on our show before, haven't you?
Yeah, back in 1999 Mallory Park Stunt Riding Championships.
Was that European Stunt Riding Championships?
Yeah, that's right.
That was that your first major event?
Yeah, that was the first one I actually done.
Right, so how have you progressed since then? How's it been going?
I've been practicing, I've been going York Raceway performing some shows, you know, the Straight Liners event. I've also been to Scotland for the Newcomer Stunt Challenge in the year 2000, which I actually won.
I was going to say you've won something big, haven't you?
Yeah.
So what does that get you now? Does that get you lots of work or what?
Well, it's kind of odd because there's so many people involved in this stunt riding business.
Yeah.
But I have been doing competitions, like I say, and trying to gain money in that way.
Yeah.
But I am looking to perform some shows and get paid properly.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about this. There is so many people doing it. I mean, it seems that anyone who thinks they can do a wheelie or a stoppie thinks they're a stunt rider, don't they, these days?
Yeah, a lot.
And there's lots of people coming on the scene. So how difficult is it to break into it? Especially with the sort of, so we say the people who've been there a long time. Gary Rothwell, Dave Coates, Craig Jones, all these people, Kevin Carmichael.
Yeah.
They've been there ages. It must be very difficult to get a foot in the door, is it?
Yeah, it is kind of hard. Sure, you need some entertainment manager or somebody like that to promote you.
That's what it is now, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've not got to just be able to do the stunts, you've got to put a show on, haven't you?
Yeah, you have to be able to perform a show.
So it's, I mean, because they're using fireworks now and all this, aren't they? On the...
Yeah, all flares and that on the bikes.
Are you into that?
Yeah, I'll do it one day.
What's that one that I must ask you about that? What do you think of this thing that Kevin Carmichael does where he takes his front wheel out?
I think that's excellent.
I couldn't believe my eyes when I first saw that.
Yeah, that's excellent. He actually takes out the whole front end now.
He takes the forks out. I know we saw him taking the forks right out, and it's just
no front end and stops it on the rail.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? Right. So what's the hardest stunt to do then? They're all quite easy.
They're odd.
They're all quite easy for you, yeah.
Yeah, they're odd, but when you get into it, keep practicing, it's easy. But I wouldn't say it's simple because it is hard when you first start out.
Right.
But my hardest one was actually getting the bike vertical and riding it whilst vertical, scraping the back down.
Yeah.
That was one of the hardest. It took me a long time to learn that.
Right.
But everything else, all the stoppers, the other wheelies, the donuts and that, they're quite easy really.
I will tell you that, they're quite easy really. What's your background in bikes then? Have you grown up with bikes or what?
Not really. I wasn't...
Motocross or anything like that? Because that's where a lot of people start young.
I wasn't really into it then. I got into it like 5-6 years ago. That's when I first got into bikes and I've loved it ever since.
Yeah. Fantastic. And this is one of the bikes used in your show. This is 750 Bandit. This
yeah, that's right.
Imported one.
Yeah.
You use you have a couple of bikes, don't you?
Yeah, I use a 1200 Bandit as well.
Right. What's the difference? I mean, why do you use one for one thing? And is it just the power?
Yeah, the 1200's got a lot more power than this. I sit on the tank and wheel it, go the whole strip. You know, the whole length of this strip on sitting on the tank. This hasn't really got much power to keep going for a while, but I scrape it down and just do all the donuts and that on it. I do all my wheelies and that on the 1200 Bandit.
Right. And you're using a scooter as well?
Yeah, I play around on this as well. It's a 125 SR Aprilia scooter.
This is good. So what's your next big event then?
I'm going to be performing at the Straight Liners events, which are coming up in the next couple of weekends.
Right. Good. Well, good luck to you, mate. And it's starting to rain now, so I reckon we should get you doing some stunts before it gets too wet.
All right then.
Right, get your gear on.
Santa Pod, that's where we are, but we've not come to what you'd normally expect to see at Santa Pod, which is drag racing. No, we've come to see a guy attempt a world record. It's Jason Rennie. He's a good friend of Two Wheels. He watches it every week, would you believe? But he's already got a world record for the longest motorcycle jump in the whole of history. 253 foot, ramp to ramp. And he intends to break that world record here today. So let's go and meet the guy and find out a little bit more about it. So this is the man himself, Jason, stood by his trusty steed. What we come to this noisy Santa Pod place for then anyway, what's today going to do? Right.
You come to see me push the world motorcycle jump distance record a little bit further.
A little further? Further than you've already got, which is 253 foot, for goodness sake. Are you not being a bit greedy like?
Well, it's been 12 months since I set it, so I feel if I can push it a little bit further every 12 months, the public know they're going to be seeing one big jump a year, as well as all the promotional stuff that I'll be doing as well.
Yeah.
I want to keep this distance record in the public eye and just keep pushing it that little bit each time.
Keep it away from them nasty Americans who used to have the world record, I believe, with this Doug Danger chappie. What did he jump? What was his distance?
He held a distance of 251 feet. He held that for 9 years until I broke it last year at Donington, setting a new one at 253. But there's a guy, Seth Enslow, that everybody knows about, who is claiming to be the next Evel Knievel. Well, if he doesn't get his finger out, I'll have pushed the distance record so far away, he'll never grasp it. So he needs to pull his finger out, I think, and have a go at it now.
I mean, here today there's many a celebrity, one of which is the world famous Eddie Kidd, isn't it? Now, you've met him today. To give you some words of advice.
Yeah, well, I've never actually met Eddie before. Today is the first time I've met him, and it's a privilege for me to meet him, because I actually watched him jump when I was about 10 or 11. He came to my hometown of Wrexham and jumped over 2 Mercedes vans lengthways. And so to actually meet him today, all these years later, doing the same thing as what he did all them years ago, it's fantastic.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. So I saw you having a bit of a chat with him and everything, but you know, these other guys have used, like Evel Knievel, world famous for his Harley Davidsons and so on, they all use big bikes. Jason, this is only 250 cc's.
Yeah, that's what Eddie said. Eddie couldn't believe that I'm doing it on a 250 bike. I just feel comfortable on the 250 bike. I feel it's still got a bit of speed left yet, that I can push the record closer to 300 feet on the 250 bike.
Do you really honestly think that? My word.
I believe I can.
That's amazing. Things like, for example, things like the tyres. That's a knobbly motocross tyre. I mean, is that not a hindrance?
Well, everybody says about the knobblies, why don't I use road tyres? But a knobbly tyre has a really hard carcass to it, which I got a habit of bending front wheels at the moment on landings.
All right.
The knobbly tyres have got a very stiff tyre wall to them, so it does help the wheel, the rest of the wheel as well, a little bit by using the knobbly.
So the disadvantage of having the lumpy bits is outweighed by the fact that the carcass is ideal for the job. Yeah,
you got to prioritise it a bit.
I'm sure you have that. And there's a lot of preparation goes into these things. I mean, you know, our British climate is very inclement. I mean, we've had wind here today. We had a bit of rain. You've got the big heater device going down the track there to keep everything dry for the job. A lot of preparations involved. At what point do you say to yourself, Jason, I can't do it, it's either too windy or wet or whatever?
Well, we've got a wind meter, and if the wind is blowing harder than 15 mile an hour from the side, I can't do it. I can get up to about 160 or 180 feet of a jump with a 50 mile an hour side wind, but we can't really start pushing past the 200 foot mark with winds that much. Today we've got a tailwind, which is a bonus, but it's a gusting tailwind. It's varying 8 to 10 mile an hour each time, and that's a bit too much. A
burning question, Jason, is something very simple, this. First of all, what possesses you to even attempt to do a very long jump? And how do you practice the thing?
Well, what possessed me, I raced motocross for 4 years, for 7 years. 4 years I did the British Championships. And I was always quite good at jumping on the tracks. You know, if there was a big triple jump on the track, I was
Right.
always quite
You were the
well
man
known for going for
yeah.
it first.
And
like.
you're a fair dab hand at old wheelies and donuts and all that lot, aren't you? So you're well practiced at that.
I enjoyed that, and then I gave up the motocross and didn't have much to do with bikes for about 5 or 6 years, and it was just burning inside me that I wanted to get back on the bikes. I looked at what I was good at and what I wasn't, and how fit I was now compared to then, and what stood out more than anything was chasing the dream of being like Evel Knievel and Eddie Kidd, really.
Really?
Because you don't really need the fitness for it, but you just need the skill on jumping, you need the courage to obviously go for that jump. And
You
that's how
don't
it
need
all
the fitness,
started.
you're a blinking keep fit freak, man. You do all your training and everything else. I know what it is. You just want to look good in them fancy leathers, don't you? That's what it is.
Yeah, you got to keep fit. I think if you're physically fit, you're mentally fit, aren't you?
Absolutely.
And you feel better overall.
And you've got to be sharp, haven't you?
There's a lot of little things that make up one good big thing.
Yeah.
And I think if you can focus on all the little things as well and fine-tune them, the package falls together a bit better then, doesn't it? And it's worked for me. The way I've thought about it all and pursued it all has worked because we've got the world record, so I'm going to stick with the way I know, really.
You keep that there, I don't blame you. You go and set yourself up and sort yourself out. I'll go and sort out the weather, because that's not a problem to me. I'll get the wind settled down to about 6 or 7 mile an hour behind you.
Yeah,
I'll have the
that'll
sun
be just
shining.
nice.
All right, no problem at all. And we'll get back to you after you've had an attempt at breaking the world record. So the very best of luck with it, and we'll speak to you later.
Yeah, speak to you later.
Okay, so the time has come. The time for Jason to attempt the big jump, and that's why it's fairly quiet around here, because all his friends and helpers, they've gone off to set the ramps up for the big event. And next time you join us at Santa Pod, he will have indeed done it. But not without this, he won't. He needs his bike. And I think he's forgotten this. Hello, Jason. Jason, you need your bike. Jason.
Right, a test for you. Did you know there's a certain Japanese bike manufacturer who also makes aircraft? And did you know they also make a bike that'll do a mile in under 20 seconds? Yes, it's true. And what's the connection? It's aerodynamics. And this, the ZX12R, is full of aerodynamics. In fact, the aerodynamics make it so fast that the European Commission threatened dire consequences if it really did 200 miles an hour. Instead, it does around 188 in the right conditions, which doesn't happen to be now. But that's all a bit academic. It's good for pub talk, but in the real world, what you have is more power than a 5 Series BMW and about a 1/7 of the weight. Get the picture? This is a serious performance motorcycle. Now up front you can see what I'm calling the giant pooper scooper. That's the ram air duct, which Kawasaki says adds actually 12 brake horsepower when you go in at full chat, which is a hell of a lot. Some people have said, why isn't it flush? Well, if it was flush, according to aircraft technology, you lose a lot of that fresh air intake. You're just lost on the aerodynamics. Now the other part of this equation, that's 12 brake horsepower extra, but the rest of it is here. And this brand new engine produces 180 brake horsepower. That's a lot of ponies, that is, let alone all these sheep around here. It's brand new, it's got chrome plated bores, which means they can get the bores closer together. Saves weight, makes the engine much slimmer. Also under this magnesium cover, 12 plate clutch as well. All very neat, copes with all that power. And look up here, fuel injection. Massive chokes there, that's where they're sucking all that air in to get all that power. Whatever, the technology certainly works. The bike feels much lighter than it is, more like a 600 than a 1200, but open that throttle and you know it's a 1200. It's a matter of dialer speed, 90 in first, 120 in second, and so on. But it's not just brute power. The delivery is super smooth and the handling a revelation. Again, this is nothing like the old ZZR 1100, which is like a super tanker in comparison to this. On the ZX12R, you just tip it into the corner and around you go. The suspension is firm but well controlled and the whole bike really feels nimble. A sort of amazing grace. grace or not, the suspension is fully adjustable, front and rear. And look at this front end, upside downers on this, 43mm stanchions, 6-pot calipers there, the old 320mm discs. And see this little gizmo here, this little aerodynamic deflector. Now it's not a gimmick, that's actually designed to pick up the airflow there and stop it being disrupted by these calipers. So it doesn't have too much drag. All this counts. And here, if you can see them, these little holes here, the air goes into the radiator, and would you believe it's actually sucked out through there and around the side of the fairing. Again, this is aircraft technology, comes along there. And see these little wings. Now these aren't designed to keep you down on the ground. Again, this is to disrupt the airflow. It's to stop any messy air from here and off the front wheel coming up the side of the fairing. So it breaks it up, reduces drag again and increases speed. And it's all supposed to work. Aircraft technology. But what are these aerodynamics like for the rider? They're good. The screen's low of course, but the rest of it is very effective at keeping the blast off you. The riding position itself is fairly sporty with a slight tip forward and the seat big and roomy, which is just as well because this bike is absolutely ballistic. It's so responsive and so powerful that you've got to feel right to feel in command. But the poor old passenger has got nothing at all to hold on to. You could in fact strap them down on these bungee hooks, but that wouldn't be very nice, would it? Under here is in fact the pillion seat. You just take this plastic cover off and under there is a small seat squab. But as I say, with no grab rail, I wouldn't fancy that at all. Just put that back on there. When you're actually coming up to the cockpit, you can't help but miss these mirrors, which look absolutely massive. Again, some people don't like them. They're all aerodynamic. But I'll tell you what, this mirror glass at first feels pretty big. But what you see is your shoulders, not your elbows. Normally on sports bike you see elbows, but not shoulders. If you crouch down over the tank, yes, you get a clear view. But again, most of the time you're sitting fairly upright, so it's only half mirror. Down in here, if I just clamber aboard, the instruments, they're both analog, speedo and rev counter. But the speedo's very, very small, and those digits are really crammed up. 220 miles an hour it shows on here, and there's just too many of them. So if you are travelling at a fair old lick, which you're bound to be doing, you actually can't clearly read them. Now at the back here, this very pretty chain isn't just pretty. See these gold side plates? They're specially strengthened. This was a chain made by DID just for this bike. So it's got strengthened side plates and strengthened rollers as well. You can also see this swing arm, which looks a bit odd first off because they call it a pentagonal shape. In there's interior webbing to strengthen the swing arm on both sides, and it's supposed to match the flex and complement it to give the right amount of movement so you haven't got any part too rigid. What also you can't miss is this massive back tyre. This is this big 200 section rear tyre. Forget your 180s, 190s, 200 section. Monoshock tucked away up there, fully adjustable of course. And over on the other side I can just see my reflection in there. Not a pretty sight, but I don't have to tell you that. Massive titanium can. And down at the front end of that is a catalytic converter, all worked within the pipe. Makes it very, very neat. So where are we in the hyperbike stakes? At £9,380 on the road, the Quacker is more expensive than the Blackbird or the Hayabusa. But all three bikes have a similar performance. The Honda a bit more refined, the Suzuki a bit more of a bruiser, but all three will see you losing your licence with a twist too far. Where the Ninja really scores though is in the handling stakes. It's lighter than its competitors and its handling is tauter, well and truly in the sports bike class. Couple that to its slimmer feel and to me more stylish lines, and irrespective of the whose is the fastest of them all debate, I'd say the ZX12 has the edge in the hyper performance class, the ultimate rocket ship class. By the way, not only can you have one in lime green like this one, it also comes in red and a classy silver. Not that you'll be in view long enough for anyone to notice of course, so just enjoy. I'll tell you one thing, this is certainly not a bike for the sheepish.
Well, welcome back to Santa Pod, where we did say we would bring you a world record attempt. Well, I'm afraid we can't do that. But it's no fault of ours, or in fact the man who is indeed going to do it, or attempt it, that's Jason Rennie. No, in fact it's the fault of that. Yep, just a caster. Obviously that's not off his bike, well, even you guys know that. It's actually off the ramps, one of the ramps. They can't indeed put it in place. They can't fit the ramp where they want it to live. Therefore, they can't do the jump. Jason is absolutely gutted, and understandably so. And obviously, the people who are waiting for him to do it are not particularly pleased either. So he's gone down the other end of this runway to tell the folks out there that I'm afraid he can't do it for today. But you never know, he may attempt it tomorrow. Who cares? Because he already holds a world record, 253 foot. We can't take that away from the guy, for goodness sake. And I'm sure if he doesn't do it today, tomorrow, he'll definitely do it another day. And I'm sure 260 foot is no barrier for a bloke like Jason Rennie. He's got to be the most fearless man in the world.
Well, you can imagine just how disappointed everybody was. But as Wayne says, he is indeed the current world record holder. So here's a look at his world record leap at Donington Park last year. An incredible 253 feet. And on Two Wheels next week, Wayne's out and about again. This time he travels to the Lake District to meet two riders who've just completed the most amazing journey on 50cc scooters.